the things that we can access in real estate as an industry are so remarkable. And I think part of it is including people we love and care about so that they can have access to the same amazing things, right? Welcome to Overachiever Central. John Clidy in the house. Thank you for joining us today. If I may just really warmly welcome you. You are, first of all, you're a super dad, super hubby. You have 4 kids that are young, right? And you're a published author, most recently, Leaving Six Figures, which we're going to do a deep dive into. And you're a business owner, you're a serial entrepreneur, and certainly just an amazing person that is a leader in our real estate ecosystem that we've looked up to for many years. And the strides you've made in such a succinct amount of time are really remarkable. And most of all, you're just a nice guy too. Oh, by the way, and nice has a currency, and nice matters. So I just really want to thank you and welcome you to our environment here.
Thank you. I know culture has its codes, like 35 or whatever, or 38, and the last one is be nice, right? Isn't that the
Yes.
the last one is to be nice? So.
And we always joke around, we say benice.com, right? I mean, just be nice, because the reality is, and I share this with my offspring and my kids is, who you are when no one's looking matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how you treat people and who you are when no one is looking. So you have a great reputation, and I just want to jump right into it. Okay, John, you had a really lucrative career. You had a lucrative, really outstanding career in the upper echelon, I'll say, of law enforcement. That was certainly a 6-figure package with some great benefits, I might add. So can you just take us to your mindset in the crux of making the decision to leave that tremendous position for this whole wild entrepreneur life? Could you just take us back? Because I feel like a lot of people create reasons and complications for their inaction. And what's remarkable is that you felt the pressure and took action. So bring us to that place.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a really great job, and I never want to shortchange the fact that some people, really were born to be police officers, nurses, whatever that is. And I don't know if I was born to do that. I think it was, a bunch of college kids that seen a really good base salary and benefits, and $100,000, and could be earned, and you get out of jail free card, and all those things were really cool when I was a college kid. And then as you get the role and you get a job, 10,000 people applied, and I think maybe about 200 of us, or 200 plus, end up actually getting the job back when I took it back in '96. And there was a 6-month period to be a trooper, right? So you had, the barrier of entry was so difficult. First, you have this test period, right? That thousands and thousands of people try to go, and a lot of people don't even get to the point to even go because of maybe a bad past, or maybe their grades weren't right. Because this group is usually the captains of the football team, the best students, the alpha male, alpha female group is the ones applying for this role, right? Is first off, because it was a very highly decorated police department at the time. And then you work 6 months to actually obtain this job, and you live at the, I don't know if you know, but you live there for 6 months, and you come home on weekends, and you go back, for 6 months to even get it. And it's a paramilitary experience where it's very, very difficult to even, a lot of people, you bring in X amount of folks to the academy, and only, a percentage of us pass. So it was really hard to get. So when you get it, you're like, you don't really give up this kind of job. This is not,
this wasn't easy.
Yeah, it's not a job you give up. And then when you get in, and then, you get this blue uniform on with the leather, and you got a gun, and like you really work hard to get it. And then people really treat you different because you're this opposing figure. And and then you get into the world and it's like, okay, now it's just, eventually it turns into a career or a job like anyone else's, right?
Hmm.
Um, and differentiating that at times is tough because you do have that persona of what the power that comes with those roles and the pressure. So I think, if you think about that, and now fast forward as you start to develop as a human being, you start saying, am I that guy? you know, am I the guy that really likes this? Do I like the people that I'm with? Do
Mm.
they motivate me? Do they make me better or do they make me worse? So from my experience, I felt like, I don't want to say I was getting worse, but it wasn't who I was. And I was living in this position that I started to feel like I continued to be someone I was not. And then oh, by the way, in 1999, I got my real estate license. So I started to endeavor in that. And I said, wow, this is fun. You can make as much money as you want and it's flexible and
All the
it's,
freedom.
yeah. So then you start contrasting the two worlds where it's like, and then, again, there's a lot of stories there, but, I started to get success in real estate. And, now I started making the money and seeing that there's an unlimited path to success and growth there where I knew the day I really joined the state police, what I would make really, within reason, even if I'm the colonel, I can I have an idea what I would make in my pension for the rest of my life. Right. So, but then, then now, fast forward, I'm 3 years shy of receiving that lottery ticket, as I put it in the book, where I can make, let's say somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 for the rest of my life. And if I live 20 years, there's $1.4 million there, and I'm going to live till I'm like 110. So, I'm going to make a whole lot.
Exactly, right? That's the math. Yeah.
So then that starts to play in. Now it's like, I got these two worlds that I have an incredible job. I got benefits. I got a car. I get insurance. I can speed up and down the highway, which you're not supposed to, but you do. And then I got this incredible career that now I own properties. I can make unlimited income, and then we could discuss later. And I found this incredible world called Keller Williams, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. So let's just look at the timeline, right? You became were you first a state trooper in
Yeah,
96?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you got your license to sell real estate 3 years later in 99,
yep.
right? And you as an investor primarily, or
Yeah, so I started off. I went to a little. Well, you know what? I started off with a little small independent in '99, and that owner was an investor. So he owned like 40 homes in my small town. So I was like, that's cool.
you're like,
Like
I want to do that. Take
passive
me to
income.
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I actually purchased a little small twin Section 8 rental first with some help from Dad. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank, so I got, I had a couple thousand. Dad had a couple thousand, and we bought this little townhome in a community out in South Jersey. So that's kind of started it,
Okay. So
and
that
then
started the real estate thing. And
yeah.
then it sounds like you were assessing if your environment supported your goals
Yeah,
in
so
terms of
so
you
yeah,
being
so
in that
so
law
so, so
enforcement.
um, a perfect example, I guess, to give. Um, so I talk about in the book. There was one day in real estate. I don't know if you guys. I'm sure I've seen you and Martin and a couple folks that I know on here. Uh, there was a. I had $100,000 day, meaning um, between my settlements and I flipped a house that day. I think I had 100 and some $1,000 of checks in my pocket.
And just to
And
say, settlements are closings. No one's cashing out on a legal thing. Just to clarify for the
well,
YouTube.
settlements, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
closings.
I had 10 closings or whatever you
Yeah.
want to say, and I had the commission checks in my pocket because I went to the office. My office at the time was Century 21. So when we had deals, the broker's there and he wrote the check. He was a good broker and wrote the check. So and I was state trooper there, so he was always nice to me. So you get out of jail free cards too. So uh, I left there around 2 o'clock, and I had to work in Atlantic City as a state trooper at 4. So I didn't have time to do anything, but I had the settlements, and I flipped the house all, and it was like investment settlements, and some they were all quick, double bubbles. It was just like that perfect storm that day, and then I capped it off with selling a flip. So I had all these checks in my pocket, and then I was already dressed for work because we dress kind of like this. I was a plainclothes state trooper working in the casinos. So I go to work, and then we had like a shift party that day, and I'm at the party with a bunch of troopers, and we're celebrating a guy leaving, and a bunch of the troopers were like, "You still doing that real estate stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Why are you doing that? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your energy. You should be working overtime. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. And I heard it so many times. So again, this is a culmination, which it's too much to share here, but years of this, people saying, "Why are you doing this?" And "You're wasting your time. You should be doing this and working overtime and getting more of this and that." And I had this guy here saying, "Show him the checks, show him the checks." And this guy saying, "Don't show him the checks, don't show him the checks." And the guy said, "Show him the checks," one, and I'm like, "Really? Don't make money? What's this look like?" And then they started grabbing them. 3 or 4 troopers grabbed checks, and they're like, and you kind of see it. And I knew my life would never be the same after that. And then they're passing it around and like, "Oh, so you're too good now." And so it was out of my character to do that. But
right.
I got to the point where I was just so fed up with people telling me what to do, and in my business, if I don't want to work overtime, I don't want to work overtime. But a lot of those folks, they referee job. They had they all did like volunteer, whatever they're doing. Their kids sports or they're hunting. That's okay. My hobby made me money. That's not okay. So that's how I felt. I'm not saying that's what but that's how they made me feel. So that started me saying, "Is this the world I want to be in?" And again, this is like 2007, 8-ish. So I probably should have left probably 7 years sooner, 6 years sooner. But again, it's hard. The fear, the
It's a
uncertainty.
journey, right?
Yeah.
It's a journey. I mean, none of us have a crystal ball, and that's okay. And it's fascinating, though, that you intensified your real estate activities as the market kind of started to get into that subprime
Yeah, well,
concept.
I was an investment realtor, so I flipped homes, I owned homes, and my clients um, did the same. So we were really doing well in that shift because we were all the short sales and foreclosures we were
We're
buying,
buying them.
and selling them. So for me, I didn't see a dramatic shift. I mean, I seen a shift, but not like a lot of folks had done. And the interesting thing is, and I tell it in the book, all those folks that harassed me about doing overtime or whatever, either they work for me now, they're a client, a customer, or something. I would say almost every single person that I recall in my memory that had that was breaking my stones about it have either worked for me, asked me for advice, or somewhere in my world or under my in my downline or whatever. They're
That's
somewhere in
awesome.
my stratosphere. So I feel good that eventually they figured it out, and now they're helping their families like I'm able to do and helping others. So it's cool.
Yeah, just to have fun with that concept. I've seen a bunch of memes about, hustle so hard until your haters ask to join you.
I love
Right?
it.
And
Love
it's just empowering other people. I think the things that we can access in real estate as an industry are so remarkable. And I think part of it is including people we love and care about so that they can have access to the same amazing things, right?
it. I love
And
that. Yeah.
that's so cool. So a lot of them are in your real estate ecosystem. I mean, when you think back to how they were like, "Oh, just work overtime. What are you doing, tinkering around with real estate?" The reality is 66% of Americans are literally they can't weather a $1,000 emergency. And 78% actually live check to check, right? So it's just fascinating how you want to make sure who are you gleaning from, and who do you have in your environment, right? So hats off to you that you were able to pull them into the
Yeah.
positive side of your venture. So when did you jump into real estate? This was 13ish, 14ish, 2014,
When did I jump into Keller Williams?
full time. I'm talking John
So
is ripping off the band-aid
so
and
I
literally leaving six figures.
so mentally I left sooner, but I actually left the state police May 2014.
Okay. May of 2014.
Yeah. Yeah. So
3 years before the lottery ticket.
Well, I would say the lottery ticket was really the day I got the job. I mean, in my opinion, because I was able to, I knew that in 20 years, I would be able to get 50% of my last year's salary for the rest of my life. And then, oh, by the way, if I stay 5 more years, I get benefits and 66 and 65 or 66% for the rest of my life. So I knew I was never less than 25. My thought was I was going to make it to 20, and right around 15, I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not. I don't know if I could do this anymore. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, and then when I left, I found Keller Williams in 2012, so 2 years before I left, and I really I think a lot of it was Keller Williams because I was acting even as a very successful Century 21 agent. I was one of the top in the country. I was doing 150 to 170 units and 30 some $1 million. And but I was very entrepreneurial. I mean, extremely entrepreneurial. No
That's a
system.
fancy way to say my way, right?
Yes, yes, yes. It was all gut and glory and hard work, and that's it.
Hmm.
And when I came to Keller Williams, I learned that literally I was a practitioner, not a business owner, and I was practicing real estate, not running a real estate business. So as and I forgot who said it, maybe Gary Keller or maybe someone else, but I remember they were saying, even Taylor Swift's a practitioner because if she stops singing, her business is done, which is an incredible, remarkable practitioner. But that's what happens with doctors or anyone that has a practice. So for me, as I started to learn how to be a business owner, I think it started shifting my mind even faster than when I was at Century 21 because I was just very good at selling and buying real estate, but not as a business owner. So as I became a business owner, my mindset shifted. So I started thinking like a business owner. I'm like, can I work 50 hours a week and still be successful and then still go home and be a good dad and a husband? And the answer is no. Because if you have the ball, what's one thing says you got the rubber balls, and business is rubber, and then family integrity and marriages are glass. And if you drop those suckers, they shatter, and that's not the win-win for anybody in life. So that's a lot of that comes into play because it's the work-life balance and the success and the mindset all kind of coming in a perfect storm, really, to leave that lottery ticket ultimately.
So now you're empowered, you're in the right environment, you're learning to really operate as a business, right? So we own a job or we own a business. So you were now treating it more like a business. I'm guessing systems coaching. Who was around you? I'm sure you had a coach at the time. And then we want to hear how you accessed more opportunities because you lead about 10,000 people right now in a region called the Greater PA region. So we want to hear about how you kind of took a conveyor belt, right, to these greater opportunities. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that happened, and literally, I was an OP before as a state trooper too. So I was an operating principal and a top agent at the same time for 2 years. And my mega team at the time, for like six of us, turned into now 300 plus, but probably really fast turned into like 200. And the regional director role came up, and that helped my decision too because I was thinking like if I could stay in all real estate world, then mentally it's not bad because I'm an OP, I'm an RD, I'm a mega agent, as opposed to 50, 60 hours of just the police and then that. Because doing the OP and the police and the real estate was taxing enough. Because again, I get called to duty, I can't say no. It wasn't that kind of job where you just, I'm good. No, you can't. Especially around, yeah, like hurricanes, like 9/11. All I mean, we go to danger. We don't leave danger. So there's no options for me. And depending on what job I had no choice but to have to be there for X amount of times outside of my time to take off. So the regional job came around, and it was a national search from what I was told, and the region was looking for top people around the country. And luckily for me, Mike McCarthy and his dad chose me and Jim Fischetti, who worked for Moe Anderson. to run the region. And I was the area director first, and then transitioned to regional director the last few years here. So it was a chance to be coached by at the time John Davis and Cherie Lowry, and being around the Mark Kings and Matt Greens of the world, some incredible leaders out there who and Brenneman and a lot of and Michelle McBride McCarthy's and Paula Huffs, and just so many amazing folks that I've been around and uh, collaborating with, and it forces you to be better around and even my leaders in the greater PA region. We got incredible OPs and top agents, so we're really really blessed to have some incredible people. So they push you to be better, and then being a regional director, area director, it forces you to be around the top people. So you got to behave to stay in those worlds, right? This is not a kind of, it's actually like the state police in a way where, there's policies and procedures of how to behave as a police officer, as a state trooper. And there's ways to behave as a high level leader. We show up differently. We behave differently. We learn differently. We get involved differently. We participate differently. So that's the thing that I would say the difference being with a company like this is where it forces you, if you're in the right circles, which we all really, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, you start to get around these folks, it just forces you to be better. And then the other parts, you got to do your part too by absorbing what you have and take action and implement, and then being an example. And that goes for internally, right? I mean, at home, how are you being? Are you at home with dinner with your family? Are you spending time with your wife, your kids, or is work the only thing that you do? So that's what I think for me has been really that transition from police officer to now business owner, and then Keller Williams leader, of really being exposed to top people, forcing myself to be learning based. Because I talk about in the book, I think before I became a Keller Williams agent, I might have read, I don't know, maybe this many books outside of like things like a sports book or something about like Duke or the Eagles or whatever. So and now I'm probably on a good month doing 3 books a month, even with my busy schedule.
It's amazing, right? It's almost like a fish in their little tank. Before KW, it sounds like your tank was different than this here tank, right? And the fish can only grow to the size of the tank. Mm-hmm. And so when you create and you really delve into an environment that is bigger, better, faster, right? It's like you can now grow to, I haven't outgrown it yet. You definitely haven't outgrown it yet, right? So we're just like in this journey, and you've accessed, so it sounds like on the heels of your sales success, that opened leadership roles. And from the leadership roles now, it is just opening up even different success, right?
Oh yeah, what's value, validity, thrive? They talk about in career visioning. I agree, because now this guy here, I don't have problems of getting in business with talent. I don't have problems with people coming asking me. I think now you got to learn to say what to say no to.
Yeah, just
more so than the opportunities. And yeah, I mean, you get a lot of opportunities, but listen, with great success comes a lot of responsibilities, and there's accountabilities and there's expectations around that. And and I'm sure this, Dana. I mean, you can't take time off. Just like when I was a trooper, I can't. I'm always a trooper. When you're a trooper, you're 24 hours a trooper. When you go to dinner, when you go out with your friends, with your family, with your wife, what you do on social media. And I don't think it's any different for us as leaders. I mean, how you show up every day is scrutinized, especially as a regional director. I mean, there's 10,000 plus, including Gary and the other 100 and some thousand that I represent. If I did something really silly, that affects a lot of people. I mean, not just my region. Now you're talking 31 other regional directors that are like embarrassed that I'm part of that group, or Gary Keller or Moe Anderson and all these folks. So I don't think Moe Anderson writes my Ford if I don't show up with integrity and be that leader. So I mean, yeah, I mean this position of the transition from trooper to this can get really exciting when you really plug in. Your world just kind of gets like the Matrix. It just slows down, and you're like, oh, I can see that move now.
Yeah, and so you jumped in from sales. The RD role came up. I feel like you're also a coach. What's your MAPS coach?
Yeah, I coached RDs for a few years too, regional directors, and then when all the changes came on, I had to make a decision um, to do I want to still do that or focus on what I'm doing best, which is being regional director, operating principal, mega agent, dad, and then I was writing this book at this I was writing this bad boy too, so I was like, who knows where this thing goes? So I was like, let me just focus a little bit more on what I have and plus, I want to finish this book off, which was important to me too.
Yeah, and how did you take that on? I mean, first of all, such an honor to have Moe Anderson herself write the forward for your book, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
the Velvet Hammer, right?
I was insane.
So how has your relationship with Mo impacted your growth and your trajectory?
Well, it's funny because I was at Coach's Skill Camp. I think it's in D.C. or wherever it was, or one of the events, and my we're in front of the room, and I think Diana said we're gonna now have a whatever a charity, and whoever the highest bidder to KW Cares gets dinner or something with Mo, right? So my MCA and team leader are there with me, and they're like, "You got to get this,"
Wow.
and I'm like,
No pressure.
"Yeah, yeah." I'm like, "Well, how much is it going to take to get this?" And it's like at the beginning, it's like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and before you know it, I mean, we're in like the 10,000 range, and I'm like, "Oh, uh, ugh, ugh," you know. So I think the number was like 12, but
It's a write-off.
we
It's a write-off though, so
yeah,
it's totally
yeah,
fine.
and it goes to good calls, obviously. So and so we got a chance to spend time with Mo, and she spent I mean hours with us. I mean I want to say 3 hours, and then lucky for me, I walked her to our elevator that night, and we sat and we talked for hours after that. I mean, just about anything and everything. And I, to me, and if you'd ever talk to, you can ask. But it was like the bond and the relationship. We were very similar backgrounds and how we feel and the faith. And so it was a cool experience. And I did a favor for her years ago, and she's done tons of favors for all of us. So it was just a perfect storm. And when I asked her, she didn't even bat an eye at it. So it was a pleasure, and she's a great mentor for all of us of culture and how important that is, and not even that of leadership. How to be professional in everything, anything and everything you do. I think she's just been an incredible mentor and just a leader for all of us.
Yeah, that's so true. She actually saved my mindset last year, and she shared it with me at family reunion in New Orleans. And then later, she did a post about it. And the bottom line of it was, she said, every problem has a purpose, and when you can shift your mindset to see the purpose in a problem, it could be the launching pad to your greatest win, right? And your greatest success. And I just love how she talked about that, and how ironic that now, right, in these post COVID times, it's really true. It's really true. It's there's problems all around us. So in leadership and in life, there's so many challenges, right? Before we got on here, we were kind of riffing about, if the person you're following in your work or leadership world doesn't have some baggage around their eyes at these times, right? Bo shared with us, you might want to find another leader. So I don't know about you, John, but these days I'm on the phone like I'm running for office.
Whew. Yeah, I'm on the phone
Tell
a
us
lot.
about how's your what's going on with your activities? What does this look like? The grit of being responsible, like you said, for so many lives, right? Like, we get to wear this title, being a leader, and you're certainly at a great level. What are you doing? Who are you focused on? Who are you pouring into around you? What does that look like? I mean, is it long days? What is it for you right now?
Yeah, it's long. I mean, I'll be lying to you. I mean, my curse and my blessing is I'm a hard worker. So this is probably the worst thing for me because I won't stop. I'll keep going. I'll need
Talked
my
about
wife.
that last year at OP
Yeah,
Fundamentals.
yeah, I need my wife to knock on the door and say, "Hey, get your butt out here." And my dad, God bless his soul. I mean, it's embedded in me to just work. I just work. So, and my team, my regional teams like that too. That there's some workers. So, yeah, we plug in. I mean, we have a lot of agents. We really spend time with the OPs. We spend time with the team leaders, ALC, the regional ALC, our top 100, which consists of some of the top people in America. Some really incredible top agents in our region. So and I do CV with them. I also recruit. I figured out today that in the last 8 weeks or whatever, since March 20th,
Mm-hmm.
I have at least on my pipeline over $1 billion of recruits that I'm in dialogue with.
Wow.
So, and that includes indies, and because that's who I call. I mean, I'm calling top tens and top fives in markets. So, I have a pipeline like everyone else, and I'm either working with leaders or doing cold calls myself. But I'm doing everything like everyone else. I'm making calls. I'm planning my day. I'm having appointments. I'm on 8 million Zooms a day. I'm still training and learning. So I mean, today we had a facilitation training, my regional team. So
Okay.
we're trying to get better at doing these things.
Sure.
So
Yeah. I don't think
always going.
anyone graduated from Zoom University. That was not my university, right? And yet we're thrusted into this. And now I think, yeah, getting really good at communicating like this is really significant now.
Mhm.
So bring us back to the book. I mean, I don't know if you can talk about it. Is did you wrote this book? Is it ghostwriter? I mean, I'm asking what everyone wants to know, right? Because I
Yeah,
think
I wrote it.
you're
Yeah,
ready to do things like this, and you actually wrote the book. How many of
yeah.
us say, "I'm going to write a book"? You know?
So the truth be told, I hired a ghostwriter in 2007 when I thought I was awesome before I even left the state police, and it just didn't turn out right.
Did you just say when you thought you were awesome?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
and it just didn't sound right. My wife even said, "Who are you writing this book?" Like and all this, and I'm like, after reading, I'm like, "Who am I?" So that was a flop, and that never went anywhere. So then I'm a regional director, area director, and I'm traveling on planes a lot. Um, so I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to write this thing myself. So I started writing on the plane and just really just writing thoughts, and then thoughts turn into chapters, and then chapters turn into sections, um, and then when I had it all together, it was horrible. I was like, this is not flowing. This is horrible. And I had a friend, Christine, who said, hey, I just wrote a book, and I had a coach, and my coach helped me organize chapters and ideas, and so I hired a coach, and then we worked together, and she took my mess and said, all right, let's figure out chapters. So we were like, what goes first? And we started prioritizing like what made sense. And because I had so many overlaps between like my careers and this, and then I went back to this and that, so we really had to figure out the important parts. And then I turned it into a WOOK, which is a workbook and book, which was, I know it's probably not original, but it was my thought to make it more of a guide.
Interactive.
Yeah, where they can take notes and journal throughout. And then at the end, they can have an action plan. And then because finances are so important in the decision to leave a job that you're not happy with, or a relationship you're not happy with, whatever, um, I also put in there a budget um, system where you can budget how much money you're making and how much money you need to make to actually leave your situation, whether it's leaving a bad situation in life or leaving a job. Same concept, in my opinion. So
Sure.
I kind of made it more like that, and it's something that people can take notes with, and I think they could share with a friend, because if it's not you, you probably know someone that maybe not happy in their job. And listen, I it actually was going to be on my cover, job I hate, but I didn't really hate it. I just grew out of it, and I wasn't happy anymore, and I didn't fit in my mind anymore. So to stay in that environment was probably not healthy, So that journey, I talk about the journey from the academy to real estate, and then you'll probably read throughout where it starts to get the journey starts to say, hey, this something's going to go here, and it can't be the family, or it can't be profitability. So I started to look at
One of the glass balls, that's for sure,
yeah,
right? Because God forbid if you drop the family or the
ooh,
spouse ball, it's irrevocably scuffed or shattered,
yeah,
right? The one thing.
and that's not an option, right? That's not
No,
an option.
no, definitely not. We know that the purpose of business is to fund a big life, and you certainly own that big life. So just to put a bow on it, uh, what do you feel is next? Because I would love to see you on the Today Show with Hoda as a New York Times best-selling author. That's my dream for you, right? And
I would love that. I love TED Talk, all that. I mean, that, you always envision seeing things like that. And listen, you don't write books to make millions. You write books to tell your story and create a legacy. And if I'm able to help some more people or maybe recruit some more folks, great. If it's my grandkids' kids see this, great. Um, all those options are great, and I just feel accomplished as a human being that I did it. Um, Anything else that comes from it to me now is gravy.
yeah, that's great. It's like, how do you leave a legacy? And speaking of recruiting, I will say I heard a great mind shift on that, because we wrote the book. I mean, literally shift, right? We wrote the book on dismal markets, and the organization was born in one. And at this point, shift, right?
Always got to shift our MRA nearby. It's got to be.
Oh my gosh, or like 10 of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, John. And it's fascinating because the perspective shift was, we're not recruiting anymore. Technically, we're rescuing people. We're rescuing them, right? Because even if you look at your journey before and after our environment, it sounds like you definitely had bigger thoughts and were coached to do, right, bigger, greater things. You got into what I call small rooms, right? So now, you can go from mega agent, team leader, essentially as a regional director of 10,000 people. You're like the team leader of the region, right? And now you get to hang out and absorb, merger and acquisitions, and just get really fun and impact so many lives at the same time and succeed through others. I'm inspired, and I know our Zoom room is inspired. And so final thought, I had a mega agent right before we got together today. I had a mega agent say, "Hey, I can't be with you in that Zoom room, but ask John, what on earth is he doing for that, like, balance thing?" And I'm like, "Tell me more." Essentially, he's saying that work life balance, like, what's in your head about that, to really just put the bow on this amazing journey. What are you doing now? I mean, post COVID balance, because things have changed a little bit.
So number one, marry the right person, or the right partner, whatever your situation is, because without that, I mean, this is not possible. So I have a good partner that takes care of my home part. So when I'm here doing this stuff, I know that's good. So that's a good thing. So when I walk out these doors, that's good. So now I just need to, for me, and I can always get better, is I just need to plug in when I'm there. Because what happens when you have so many things in your life that you control or you're leading, my behavior is, if I'm always thinking about those things. So, I got to be able to mentally shift out of this world into that world. And that's the challenge I'm sure a lot of us go through. So, I say you got to really learn and train yourself to shift out of the worlds, whether it be you're working out, then go work out, right? And get out of this world. If you're with your wife and kids, shift to that world. If you're with business, shift to that. If you're lead genning, shift to that world, right? Don't be in the other worlds and texting, and stay focused to your lead gen, right? So I think the mind needs to be in the right place at the right time. If I give any advice, and that's for every single thing you do in life, any category you want to call, have your mind in the right place. Because if that's not right, then you can't really make anything else
Wow, that's awesome. And that's so true, right? Just be present.
work.
Be present. Well, I'm going to invite everyone to definitely go on Amazon, right? Why not? And get your copy. Get it for a friend too, because I feel like, look, the statistic is 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And you literally give tools and systems in your Leaving Six Figure book that are actually useful in terms of strategizing to get out of the job and hopefully to take control of your business and your life.
Hey, Dana, that actually profit first, that author says that 83% of small businesses and that consists of businesses from 25 that gross revenue is $25 million or less. 83% of them live paycheck to paycheck, which means us realtors too,
Yeah.
which is crazy. $25 million of annual revenue, and 83% of those folks live paycheck to paycheck. Just think of that. I mean, just put that on the table and think about it. That makes your heart stop and sink. So yeah, I mean, we have to do a better job as leaders, as business owners, as human beings with our money, our expense management. Like we got to do better, because that's a horrible way to live. Horrible way.
That is, and I feel like, you know, Ben Kinney has mentioned how he's okay with being poor because poor is socioeconomic. However, he's not okay with being broke because broke is something we do to ourselves. Fair? Like broke is something we do to ourselves. And I feel like, you know, the culmination is our choices, right? And you can choose, you know, to have like lean salad habits, or you could choose to have cheeseburger habits. One of the two is going to show up. So I want to be lean like you.
Hey, before I let you go, I'm going to share two quotes that I got from an incredible cultural summit where my region had almost 1,000 people on a Zoom, and probably
That was
five. Yeah, we just had one. It was awesome. Awesome, awesome.
let's hear
And
it.
uh, don't count the days, make the days count. And I love this one. A day does not have to be perfect to be wonderful.
Oh, oh.
So I thought they were good to share on a really serious crisis that we're going through, to think about those two quotes.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. High five. High five. I'm a high fiver from 6
Ooh,
feet away.
gotcha, gotcha.
Thank you. You
Awesome.
rock. John, thanks a million.
Awesome.
We're
Thank
so
you guys. Appreciate the time. Hope you
Thanks.
got something from it.